everyone! Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is something that I have been meaning to make, and also I've been working really hard on for a while now. So this video is very special to me and I hope you guys find it useful. It's probably my most popularly requested video topic, and that is about how to make your own fine art prints at home. So I have been making fine art prints for the last, I would say, 4 years, and over these 4 years, I've gained a lot of tips and experiences. Again, with like everything on my channel, these are all things that are personal and unique to my experience. So by no means am I saying that my method is the only correct method. But yeah, I really hope you guys find this video useful. I'm sorry it took so long for me to get this video out. One of the main reasons was because I think a fine art printer and all the equipment that comes with making a fine art printing station at home is so expensive, and I really wanted to make sure that I researched properly and vetted everything I used properly before I recommended things to you guys. So this video I'll be talking about what printer I'm using currently, what printer I used to use, and kind of in general how I feel also about whether you should use a fine art printer at home or get prints made elsewhere. Also, I'm going to be listing all of the equipment and materials that I used and talk about in this video in the description below, along with links to purchase them in case you guys are interested in setting up your own print station at home. Making fine art prints at home can be quite expensive, so I just wanted to tell you guys right up front the types of equipment you'll need. To make my at-home print station possible, I will first need a photo/art scanner or a DSLR camera that can range from the mid to high hundreds. Next up, I have a desktop computer that runs Adobe Photoshop software that costs about $30 a month. And of course, the priciest expenditure of all is your printer, which can hover around $1,000 or more, and that is not including the cost of the ink and paper that you'll have to replace very frequently. A full ink replacement for my printer runs about $700. And depending on the type and size of fine art paper that you use, you could be looking at over $5 per sheet of paper. With that being said, I still see many advantages in making your own fine art prints at home, and I thoroughly enjoy having this much control and say over the entire end-to-end process. So let us begin the tutorial. The first step in your printmaking process is scanning or photographing your art. I usually prefer to use a scanner because I'm able to get higher quality digital files, and my scanner is from the Epson brand and it's the V600 model. The most important thing before scanning is making sure that your artwork is completely dry and dust-free. All you have to do is place it face down on the scanner bed and use whatever software on your computer to import the scan. I personally prefer to use Adobe Photoshop because that's what I'm most familiar with. As you can tell, the scanned version of your painting in its raw, unedited form doesn't really match the original very well and will require some work and manual tweaking for you to get it right. So things like cropping it and resizing it to the perfect ratio and dimensions. Also, I like to go in and tweak the levels of the layer to make sure that the darks and brights and highlights and contrasts all match the original. And then of course, I like to increase or sometimes even decrease the saturation depending on the piece to again make sure that it will come out looking as close to the original as possible. And now for the most important part of the video, my printers. One important thing to keep in mind when editing your digital file is to make sure to size your file at least 300 dpi. What that means is, depending on the size that you make your print, there should be at least 300 pixels per inch. So the larger you want to make your prints, the higher resolution your digital file has to be. 300 dpi is the minimum for fine art prints, but I like to create my prints at 600 dpi because I think that level of detail really perfects the print and makes it look identical to an original. But because of that, I have to make sure that I have the largest, highest resolution digital files possible. Fortunately, I can scan my artworks at way higher DPIs than 300 or 600, so it's actually possible to blow up smaller artworks into way larger prints. And now for the most important part of the video, my printers. On the left, you can see my old printer that I've had for the past 4 years or so, the Canon Pro 10. It is a fine art printer that uses 9 different archival pigment-based inks and prints at a maximum size of 13 by 19 inches, and it retails for about $700. On the right is my brand new printer, which I've had for a few months, the Canon Pro 1000. It is also a fine art printer that uses 12 pigment-based archival inks, has a maximum print size of 17 by 22 inches, and retails for about $1,300. Later on in the video, I'll discuss in more details the comparisons between the Pro 10 and Pro 1000, but for today's tutorial, let's focus on the Pro 1000 as it does have a larger maximum print size and more ink cartridges, which results in richer and more dynamic prints. Next up, we'll have to decide what type of paper to use. I usually select the type of paper depending on the artwork. A fine art paper with a matte finish is especially great for illustrations and watercolors, as it makes the print feel like an original in your hand. Or sometimes I choose a glossier fine art paper, ideal for bringing out the deep, rich darks and luminous colors of an oil painting. Canon produces their own lines of fine art paper, which I love to use, but you are definitely not limited to just Canon, as there are many different brands and types of fine art paper all around. The Canon Pro 1000 printer has 2 paper feeding slots, one in the back for the matte fine art prints, and one in the front for the glossier prints. Once the paper is loaded, you can use this handy little menu right on the printer to begin printing. I usually like to first run a few test prints just to make sure the colors and everything matches up with the original before I sell the piece online or make larger prints. There are many small nuances that will vary from printer to printer and depending on your computer regarding how your monitor colors are calibrated with your printer colors and how that translates onto the different types of paper you'll use. That is why making test prints, aka artist proofs, are so important. But once you have nailed down your proofs, you can be confident enough to start selling your prints. And I just wanted to quickly mention that I did really love my Pro 10, and it's something I would still recommend to people. However, there were a few issues I had with it, particularly in regards to how fast it printed. I just felt like, especially during busy holiday seasons when there are a lot of orders to fulfill, the Pro 10 was a bit slower than the Pro 1000, especially when it comes to fine art prints on matte paper. I recall back in the day, maybe it's because with age also the printer, isn't working as optimally as it did when it was brand new, but close to when I made the printer switch or upgrade, my Pro 10 was taking around 15 minutes to make one fine art print. And for me, I just felt the need to upgrade to the Pro 1000 because it is a more advanced, newer model and it is faster. And also there are some minor differences with how the print quality turns out. It's not really noticeable on glossy prints, on glossy paper. As I mentioned before, you can use glossy or matte paper, at least for me, in my opinion, depending on which type of paper better suits the artwork. But I feel like with the Pro 1000, the blacks and grays and darker colors come out so much more rich and so much more dynamic than the Pro 10. And I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact that the Pro 1000 has more inks total. The Pro 1000 has 11 ink cartridges total and the Pro 10 has 9 ink cartridges. So I think the Pro 1000 has an extra blue ink and one extra gray ink, which really makes a difference because, especially with my paintings, because I use a lot of dark blues and grays. So it's things that are not super visible to the naked eye or to someone who doesn't have a side-by-side comparison. So I wouldn't say it's a huge deal, but you know me, I'm kind of a perfectionist, and since I've been doing this for a while now, I've really grown to really care about the small things. And for me, the Pro 1000 just makes such a gorgeous fine art print on any type of paper, and I love that there's more granular control that I can have over the printer. I can determine what margins I want for each print. I know that the Pro 10, it enforces a specific margin size for fine art paper. So with the Pro 1000, there's just a lot more customizability. There's more controls that you can use directly on the printer itself. So to me, it's just a lot more intuitive and straightforward. And when something goes wrong, like if there's an error or if I forgot to put in paper or left a tray open or something like that, it does a much more clear job of alerting me to what's wrong and helping me kind of diagnose the mistakes I made. Whereas with the Pro 10, it was a lot of guesswork and a lot of trial and error. So yeah, in conclusion, I definitely enjoyed using both printers, but the Pro 1000 is definitely what I prefer to use now, especially now that I've tried both for a good period of time. But obviously the Pro 10 is a lot more budget friendly, especially this year. I do remember that it costed way more back in the day when I bought it. I think it was 2013, 2014. I'm not quite sure on the date, but back then it was one of the newer models, so it was a lot pricier. And now that more upgraded models have come out in the Canon printer line, the Pro 10's price has dropped. So you guys are lucky if you want to buy one this year. And now that I've kind of explained the process and the costs of making fine art prints at home, you guys are probably thinking, well, that is a lot of not only financial investment, but a lot of things I have to learn, a lot of responsibility, time investment as well. I just wanted to mention that there's absolutely nothing wrong with having your prints made elsewhere, just like I don't think there's anything wrong with making your prints at home. I think it's simply a matter of which process fits your current lifestyle, your current budget. And you know, I know plenty of really prolific, amazing artists who exclusively make their prints at print shops or maybe online printing services. So there's nothing good or bad about either one. They're just very different. When I explain the different options to do something, I seriously mean that they're equally good, but just different depending on which one is better suited for you. So if you find that you don't have the time to learn how to, use all this new equipment or software, or you don't have the money to buy everything right now, but you still want to make and sell prints, there are so many other options available. You can look at your local print shop, you can look online. I know, there's obviously sites like Society6 and Redbubble, but I'm sure your local print shop will allow you to have better profit margins. With Society6, I feel like you only make a couple of dollars off of each print sold or each of the products sold. And if you make it locally and simply, package it and distribute it yourself, you might be able to get a better price. So these are things that you can definitely research. You can just go on Yelp and type in fine art printing services or art printing or printing services. But regardless, I would really recommend, this is the one thing I will recommend, is that make sure your prints are high quality and make sure they use archival inks, because I see every print as almost an individual work of art. Regardless if it's a print or an original painting, it's going to be something that you hang up in your wall and something that brings you joy and something that you'll value and cherish. So make sure when you make your prints that you do the best you can to make it as high quality, as long lasting as possible. And I think that way your customers will really appreciate it. And the thing I treasure most about art is that it's something that seems very timeless, something that it's not just, an everyday object that I can use and throw away. So I think making it long lasting and archival is also really important, and it's going to be really beneficial when you look at your print that you bought 20 years ago and it's still just as colorful and as detailed as it was when you first got it. And this wraps up my long how to make prints at home video. I hope you guys found it useful. Thank you to everyone who has purchased prints from me. You guys have really enabled me to continue doing what I love, and I hope you guys enjoy the prints that I have sent to your homes. Also, I'm really trying to get better at making tutorials, so I'm sorry that sometimes I'm not the best at explaining myself or maybe editing these videos, but I am really trying to learn and improve. So for those of you who have given me words of encouragement, and helped me by liking and commenting and subscribing and just helping my channel out. You guys are the best, and I really, really appreciate all of your support. And real quick before I leave, in honor of this print video, I've decided to also have a 15% off sale on all prints in my store. You can use the code INK at happyd-artist.com, and the sale ends April 30th. I wish you guys a lovely day wherever you are, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Bye!